You're listening to Bigfoot Club podcast, Cryptid Sports Entertainers for Life.
Hey everybody, Robert Jesse Dominguez, Bigfoot Club, Season 6, Episode 24. I'm here with my nephew, Steven. Steven, say what's up.
What's up?
What's going on, man?
Not much, man. I'm just tired. But it's Friday. We made it.
Yeah, it is Friday, and I just logged off work right now, like 15 minutes ago, so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. You were about to say?
I was about to say, I'm really excited today, because today, I've been trying to get this lady on for probably like 2 months, and I think our scheduling, or at least my side of the scheduling hasn't lined up. So, today we have Michelle Ryder. Welcome to the club.
Hi. Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good in Texas.
Yep. In Texas. And it's finally cooling down here, and weather-wise at least.
Yeah. I want to say that I was interviewed maybe like 2 or 3 months ago by Sean McKenna. And he does bar stools and band talk.
Right.
So I got to talk to him, and I'm not even in the band. So.
Nice.
It's okay.
So what's your relationship with Sean?
Sean is my partner in life. He's my spouse and my drummer, and we met shortly after the beginning of COVID when he started that whole thing. He was originally doing sports interviews. He was talking about minor sports, but of course there was no sports. So he went back to his musical roots and started interviewing fellow musicians. But it expanded to a lot more than that. He talks to anybody who wants to have a real conversation, as though they're sitting on a bar stool at a bar just chatting. So what you're saying is that when COVID happened, it made y'all meet. Right? It kind of did.
Yeah, that's neat. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that.
Yeah, well, they interviewed me, and then we got along famously right off the get. And when he decided that his project should have a house band, they had, of course, invited a bunch of men to come and jam, and none of them showed up. And then they interviewed me and then said, well, you want to come out and jam? And I'm like, yeah, okay. And first song, we just knew there was something special there, and
right.
It's been onward and upward ever since.
So you're a singer too, right?
I am. Yeah.
So Steven and I were listening to you recently on Spotify.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
And I really like "Lie to Me."
Yeah, I was about to say Lie to Me and Closer to You. The latest hit single, Closer to You. It had such a catchy like riff to it, and now it makes me wonder, are any of these songs about your husband?
No, so
sorry,
it's
Sean.
all loosely based in relationships, but he'll live.
Yeah, because Hurt's gonna come. I was like, oh no, I hope not.
I hope Sean's treating her okay.
I actually wrote those lyrics a long time ago.
Okay,
good. Okay.
Because I don't think we've interviewed any. I think the only other person that we've interviewed that used to be in a band was Carter Burchard.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He was in a band called Roscoe, and he's also a Bigfoot researcher, and so that's how I got to meet him. Is that he was releasing a book, and then he said he was in a band called Roscoe, and I go, oh, okay, so, but
who did he play? He played with, like, they opened up for
Bruce Springsteen.
Yep,
Bruce Springsteen, and I think
wow.
I think he was saying also Rolling Stone, but this was back when this was like in the 60s.
Yep.
So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, but he didn't have the voice like you did, but you do. So Oh, I was just say that. So
he's going to listen to this and he'll get upset.
Oh, he's fine.
and then he's going to listen to it because, oh, yeah, you know what? He was right.
Carter, we love you. You know that. So, but
I guess I'll keep rating.
But I was just going to say, because like when I was being interviewed by Sean was pretty excited to talk to me about paranormal, because I've done paranormal and I've done Bigfoot stuff, and Steven's been with me since he was little, and so I've taken him out on excursions. But he was telling me that I had to talk to you regarding paranormal. So I was
an interesting journey.
Yeah, we're wondering if you have any, if you want to start in the beginning or the very beginning or the most interesting story. To me, I just want to talk to you about your paranormal experiences.
It's I would love to tell the story from beginning to end.
Absolutely,
but that's not the way it went.
Okay.
I didn't even really get in touch with my empathic abilities until the last probably 10 years. And now a bunch of things that happened throughout my life make a lot more sense and actually make me question a lot of things. So, but the one thing that I can't deny is the encounters that I've had repeatedly now. And I didn't know how to identify them then, and I still have a long journey as far as getting in touch with that. Because, my healthy fear kept me from just diving headfirst in. I wanted to make sure I was protected first. And fortunately, I do happen to be surrounded by white light, so I feel pretty good about things. But once I opened myself up to it, things very clearly were amping up. Like they realized the door was open, and they were like I was telling him I drove past a restaurant in a nearby town just a few weeks ago, and I'm just minding my business in traffic, and all of a sudden something came in from my right side across the passenger seat of my truck and like rah in my ear. And I was like, oh, wow. God. And I just kept driving. And then I felt myself saying, that's not okay. You're not allowed to do that anymore. You don't get to scare me. If you need my attention, then find a better way. And when I went back, the restaurant that I was passing apparently has a very rich history of hauntings and sightings and staff being scared to death and chased out of. I had no idea.
So you were in your car driving past it, and you were at a red light or something? No, I was just cruising slow in traffic. I was actually on the way to we were hosting a Battle of the Bands at one of the bars over in another town, Bedford. Wow. It just, jeez. And but you have to lay down the road. I've found myself having to say, when I'm sleeping, it's not okay. Right. Don't bother me when I'm sleeping because I have to work, and you can, if you, I don't have individuals reaching out at, there's nothing. But now, like I said, experiences that I had with a kid, the biggest one for me is I was actually supposed to be a twin. Wow. And she failed to thrive. She was never actually viable. But I now know, looking back at my life, that I used to think, and I was driven at a very young age to go and seek out religion, church myself. I was drawn to walk down to church by myself, like far away from my home. I don't know. But I always attributed that to my faith, to the fact that I never felt like I was alone. But now that I'm older and kind of can piece things throughout my life together much better, it's occurred to me that it's my sister that's never left me feeling alone. I'm grateful for it because it got me through some really hard times when I was alone, and I spent a lot of time alone as a child. So, right.
But even as a kid, I remember running down the stairs and had just had this nightmare and was telling my mother about it. And I started to describe the house that I was running through. And I said, this big, dark, sweeping staircase, and everything was big, thick, dark wood. But then I got around to the front corner of the house again, and it was and she cut me off and said, purple and yellow soda shop. And I was 7 or 8. So this was not a game I was making up.
Right.
She had been dreaming about that house since she was a child. And it makes no sense. Big palatial estate home. Why would it have a chrome and yellow and purple soda shop instead of a dining area or whatever? But she dreamt about the same house, and she was running through it, protecting people and trying to get out of there too. It was the oddest thing.
Wow.
Her sister married a military man as well. My father was military and my uncle was military. And so my aunt and uncle lived in barracks on the base. And the base was well known to be frequented by people from before. And my sister and I spent the weekend there one time. And I was drawn to this rocking chair. I kept sitting in it. And she's like, "You like that chair? That was here when we moved in." Okay. And again, I was just a kid, but we went to bed that night and I was freezing, and I got up and walked out into the living room, and the window was wide open and that chair was just giving her, rocking. I called to my aunt. She came down. That was weird. Closed the window and stopped the chair and sent me off to bed again. The same thing happened 3 or 4 times through the night. That chair was going like crazy when I was in the house.
That takes a lot of energy to open up a window.
Yes,
and to rock a rocking chair.
Yeah, it does.
So.
And she didn't even know that window opened. She thought it was painted shut, but it wasn't. I ended up buying a house at 21, and I felt energy in the house, but I had other people over and I'm like, "What do you think? What's it feel?" And 2 different people, completely disassociated from one another in life. They both told me, there's presence here, right? And I was like, "I've got 2, but I don't know." And they were like, "Most definitely, they're an old couple." And when I did the research, there was an old couple who had an apple orchard farm where my house sat in
Right.
Cole Harbor. And she said, "He walks the perimeter protecting you guys, and she absolutely loves your youngest son, and she hangs out in his room and protects him while he sleeps." So if they have no ill intention, I have no problem with it.
Wow.
So I didn't have an issue.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So,
Sure.
when you have the idea that it's an older couple, how do you go about finding that out? Do you sense it? Do you feel it? Do you see them? Do they tell you? I'm just curious.
I didn't know anything at the time, but when I felt their presence around me, when it felt like I wasn't alone, I had the feeling like I did when I was spending time with my grandmother, who I worshipped. She was the center of my world. So I just had the feeling that it was an older presence. But then when I researched who owned the land and that's when I found out that they had been there a long time. They had the property for a very long time, and they ended up dying on the property before it was all converted from horse farms and apple orchards to, city living.
I love that. That's such a sweet.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, nobody likes to.
I have no problem.
Yeah. Well, I don't like when children get messed with, like
Yeah.
evil
No.
entities and stuff like that. And that's a sweet one.
Yeah,
it
is.
You hardly hear those too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the one when you were driving, and I say this to a lot of people because I've been an investigator for 10 years, and I always tell people that especially like yourself, you're probably like a Roman candle, and when this ghost walked up to your car, he probably saw you lit up, hey, who's this person? Let me go there. Go ahead.
I didn't see him walk up or anything.
Right. You just felt it, right?
I assume it was a male because of the deepness of the voice. It just felt as if there was a face beside my face all of a sudden, like screaming at me.
Yeah.
And yeah, just not a word, just raw. And I told them it was not okay. And I didn't ask, what the problem was. I didn't try to help because he was not polite.
Right.
Sean was setting up to play in a place called the Ale House, which is an old bar downtown. Very old building. During the Halifax explosion, it was used as an extra morgue, basically. And so he was downstairs setting up on the stage, and it's it kind of looks like being inside a pirate ship when you're walking around inside the bar. But upstairs, there are 3 brick catacombs, and they put tables in them so that people can sit in there and, be kind of away from everybody. Mm-hmm. But I stepped into the center one, and this black figure with a very tall black hat, not a solid figure at all, but he very aggressively came straight across the table at me and knocked me back on my back on the floor upstairs. And I skipped downstairs and said, okay, we can go now.
Wow.
We can go now. I'm going to leave. Yeah, he's not nice, and I don't like it. So
did you whenever that experience happened, did you say, hey, that's not okay, or you just left?
No, I definitely
just left. Okay.
You're not. Yeah, I'm not helping you. I'm not. If you're going to come at me rude like that, then I don't want to know your story. I don't want to help you.
Right.
Use your manners.
I've told people all the time, like when people reach out to me when I was doing paranormal cases and stuff, and I say, for example, I wasn't able to get to them, until the weekend, and it was like Tuesday, and I would tell them this is what I was always tell them, and I love the way you were describing this earlier. That I would tell them, I go, take command of your house. Take command. It's just say, hey, you're not wanted here. I don't want you here. I don't want you bothering me. I don't want you bothering my kids. I go, say it out loud and let them know. So I used to do that, like right before I would go and visit their location and do the investigation. But I love that how you just automatically just do that. You just say, hey, that's not okay. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not okay. You're not allowed to scare me. This is my life. And I'm sorry, yours ended, obviously, in an unpleasant way or with unfinished business, regardless. Mm-hmm. But, you are asking for favors when you approach somebody who's still living. Obviously, you need something. So, to me, you're asking for a favor. And if you're going to do that, do it politely.
Now, I've never asked this question to anybody, and I think you're the first person I'm going to ask this question to, because I feel that you understand this like automatically, and you take this whole experience in. Say, for example, like a spirit came to you and asked you for something, and then you did it for them. Do you think you would stop hearing from them or seeing them or feeling them again?
I've never had any of them actually tell me that they need me to communicate with somebody or talk to anybody. Mm-hmm. I just get a strong sense that they are stuck.
Right.
And I'll usually just spend some time talking to them and explaining to them that whether they know it or not, you're not alive anymore. And you don't have to stay here. There's a better place for you to be, and it's waiting for you. And it's time for you to go and find that and go to where you're supposed to be. And I haven't had any experiences of being bothered by somebody after that. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there hasn't been a ton of those, but a few. And the only time my older son was involved was I used to collect. Well, I say collect. I had a house full of antiques, but it was because I was trading. I had a contract for a business that kept antiques in their stores, and I was responsible for their displays. So I did a lot of buying and selling of antiques. And I went to this place about an hour away from here. She told me she would meet me at the house where it was a hall tree. And of course, my son the house was huge and completely empty, so he took off running. I figured he was exploring while we chatted business and talked about antiques and whatever. And I ended up taking the tree. She and I loaded it into my truck, and then I came back in and yelled, and Brett, I heard his voice way upstairs, and I said, "What are you doing, bud?" And he said, I'm just playing with the girl. I said, "Oh, okay, it's time to go." And I asked her what this was, and she said it was actually an indigenous foster home years and years ago. So there were Native children that were housed there for a long time. Anyway, I put him in his car seat, and we were pulling away, and I looked in my rearview mirror, and little girl up in the very top window watching us leave.
That hurts me so much.
I said, "You weren't kidding, were you, bud?" Yeah. I said, "You weren't kidding, were you, bud?" And he goes, "Well, about what?"
He just thought she was just a little girl there, right?
He was upstairs playing with her.
Wow.
And he was like, I was playing with the girl. Matter of fact, no fear, no malice, nothing negative at all.
Innocence.
He went up and played with the little girl until I was ready to go. And I thought, okay, but then I saw her. I was like, oh, wow. Oh, it's genetic. Look at that.
Yeah.
Passed down.
How old is your son now?
He's 29.
Did he?
And I don't think he doesn't keep in touch with that side of himself at all. He's never tapped into it. He's never explored that.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any thinking in that manner whatsoever. And I've never pushed it upon anybody.
I mean, that's good. That's good. Because
does he remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I tell people all the time, because people always say all the time, I want to see ghosts. I go, no, you don't.
No, yeah.
Because if you do, if you open that door, you can't close it.
Yep.
That's right.
So,
and you better be ready. Now I don't know what made me want to go to church as a 7-year-old girl by myself. But it felt like a safe place. And I wonder now whether that was my sister looking out for me, making sure that I knew how to be in a happy and good place, and how to surround myself with positivity and, protect myself. And I always kind of felt protected by white light. So even the negative things, it's kind of, I get goosebumps like everybody else, but it doesn't frighten me because I know nobody can get into my shell,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very...
Wow.
Yeah. It's been interesting.
Do you think that your sister's still with you now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe she watches over me a lot. Yeah. I've had an interesting life, and I've had some intense experiences in my life, and I don't know that I would have gotten through that as well as I did had I not had her with me, and my grandmother, who was a very, very strong, wonderful person who I adored. It's, it can be a very lonely journey because it's not something you can just walk up and talk to anybody about. They look at you like you're crazy.
Right.
But, and it happens at the weirdest time, like driving in traffic. One time, Sean and I were in the studio with friends of ours. It was a really old building, and we were in the very basement of it. And all of a sudden, on my left side, and I whipped my head around and watched, and then I looked back like, well, trying to read their faces and see if anybody else actually just saw what I saw. And the engineer was the only one who said, what just happened? And I said, nothing, I'm fine. Go ahead. He goes, no, Michelle, what happened? I said, a woman and a little boy just came out of that wall and zipped straight across and straight into that brick wall behind me. He was like, damn it. I'm not going to work here at night anymore. He said, people have been telling me. I said, they have? Because he said, yes. It was right next to St. Mary's Basilica, the oldest church in Halifax. And it was the nuns lived there, and there was an orphanage down there as well. And he was like, how could you have known that? I said, I did not know that, but I know it now because she just went that way.
So, Michelle, he didn't see it, but he went off your reaction, how you responded to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his back was to me when I spun my head around. So he must have felt some sort of energy change because I didn't make a sound. I whipped my head, and then I came back like, when you slip and fall and the first thing you do is lift your head to see if anybody saw you wipe out. It was that kind of reaction. And he knew that something weird had just happened, and he didn't know what it was, but he wanted to know.
Wow.
I was like, no.
You think her seeing that, like, it feeds off her, obviously, but it also makes her like an antenna, like it just goes like the power, like a power surge or something. And maybe he felt that
possibly
because he was like, he had pretty much his back turned. He felt something for him to turn around and then see her reaction.
Yeah.
So it just makes me wonder if she's just literally an antenna, and if there's paranormal stuff nearby, it connects with her.
Right.
Obviously. That's weird.
Michelle, we've interviewed one of our good friends. His name is Brett Carson, and he's out of California, and he's a psychic medium, and he has his own like a YouTube channel. And whenever he talks to us, because he says sometimes he gets bombarded with spirits, and he says that he mentally puts like a door, and he puts a sign on the door says, "Do not bother me until I wake up, or I'm up making coffee, then you can bother me." But he puts he goes, I do this every night. I put a mental thing out saying, do not bother me while I'm sleeping. Do not touch my toes. Do not touch me while I'm sleeping. Do not walk. So he does that. He puts like this energy out. And so
they will squeeze your toes and hurt you. It's awful.
So
Jesus.
I don't consider myself a medium or anything, though. I'm not trained like that. I just happen to feel things very deeply, and I when somebody walks in a room, I can feel how they're feeling. I can tell what kind of mood they're in, where they're at, how they feel about me. It's good and bad because how do you deal with that at work when you've got a boss that you can feel doesn't really care for you? It causes, where otherwise you would just ignore whatever behavior because you don't know what's going on. But unfortunately, I know what's going on. So I had someone that I was very, very close to, and we ended up having a parting of ways that was very, very hurtful to me. And so we all worked for the same company years ago. And my sister worked for that company as well, my sister that's living. And so this one morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I am driving in a long highway towards work, which was in downtown Halifax at the time. And this truck pulls up beside me. And I look over, and it's this person. And I smirked, and they smirked back, and he hit the gas and peeled away. And I was like, oh, look at you, bought yourself a new truck. That's nice. Anyway, I passed, and I looked in the rearview mirror to see if he was turning in the highway to go to the company that we all used to work for. And truck was gone. I thought, oh, okay. So I called my sister and said, so-and-so's in town. You're probably going to get a visit. She was like, every Christmas. Pops, comes over to see the kids or whatever, and then pops into work. I said, well, you'll see. Anyway, I carried on with my day. About 9:30, 10 o'clock that morning, my sister calls me at my desk and said, Shell, you didn't see who you thought you saw this morning. And I said, I know, please. Yes, I most certainly did. We had a conversation with our eyes. I was, maybe 5 to 7 feet away. Come on. I know this person, really know this person. So she said they had a massive heart attack at 9 o'clock last night and passed. Well, apparently they felt like they needed to say goodbye to me because they did me dirty.
I was about to ask that.
Sometimes.
Do you think he was that?
Oh, yeah.
That was his way of saying, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm gone."
It was either him saying I'm sorry, or he got to somewhere where my grandmother got hands on and said, "What the hell? Go say you're sorry."
Yeah.
But something made him make an appearance.
Wow.
So, it's just a lot of little things
that's pretty powerful for him to show up in a vehicle. Next to you.
You heard the vehicle too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was no license plate on it. There was a yellow tag in the window, and it was the same truck he had before, but a different color. So here I was thinking, oh, look at you with all the money, got yourself a new truck now. And yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
How did you feel about that afterwards? After you heard the news?
Well, I was unnerved from seeing someone I hadn't seen in a long time for a few minutes, but then I was like, whatever, carry on. And then she called, and it at first I was like, what? And then I just went, oh, he needed to clean up some business because he was not being his best self.
Yeah.
He was not being his best self.
My goodness.
Wow. That is Michelle.
I kind of wish I had some formal. I do have a strong circle of friends that are in and very. Actually, my girlfriend Michelle, who said, "You've got to lay boundaries down. You've got.
Yeah.
You are. She said, I know you, and you want to help everybody all the time, but you can't do that." And I was like, "You're right. You're right. I'm never going to have any peace if I don't." And she was actually the one that taught me to say, "No, this is you. You will not bother me while I'm sleeping. You will never hurt me or anyone I care about, or it's not okay to hurt people or scare people. It's not acceptable." So I was grateful for it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna ask you a weird question here. This is very weird.
Sure.
Have you ever felt anything while you're performing? Like anybody in the crowd that may not be a person or may be a visitor? Have you ever had that?
Yes. And I can pick a bad person out in the crowd. Mm-hmm. I can feel them and their negative intentions. I can see a fight before it happens. God, that when we play at the Ale House, you don't get out of there until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You don't start playing until 12:30 at night. I'm too old for this stuff. But here I am 4 o'clock in the morning outside with these 2 girls because I knew that person intended on being a predator, and she was so drunk that there was no way I was leaving that girl alone because I knew what his intentions were. I want to knock on wood. I haven't gotten disrupted by spirit while I'm performing, but definitely the empathic side is strong. Like I can't perform unless I can connect with people. So I'm always making eye contact with people and trying to make that connection with them. And then sometimes I wish I hadn't made connections with them.
Yeah.
Ooh, moving right along. You're not a good person. Next.
All right.
I was going to tell you, 2021, I got real sick and I coded in the hospital for like 7 minutes.
Wow.
And they did CPR me for 7 minutes, and then I came back, and then I was paralyzed after that, and then I had to learn how to walk all over again. And there was times when I was in the hospital and I would see people, but I couldn't tell if they were if they were alive or they were, because I seen this one guy walking around at 3:00 in the morning. He was walking around with like one of those IV rollers, you know. And so I asked the nurse like 3 days later. I said, "Hey, what happened to that old guy that was walking around?" And she told me, "Because honey, there's nobody in this floor that can walk." So I just, so mine is like I can't, it can't be turned on. Either it's there or it's not. And there's been times where I've been with Steven and we're with the boys like at the mall or a store, and I just get a weird sense about somebody like that's, I can't see them, but I know they're walking beside me. And then I'll turn to Steven and he goes, I know what you're going to say. Keep an eye on this guy. And I go, okay. All right. So I just get that feeling sometimes. I go, there's something about this guy. I don't know what it is, but I have a weird feeling about him. It's not good. So, so it's one of those things I can't turn it on and turn it off. It's just, it either happens or it doesn't.
Yeah.
So
I don't ask for it or draw people in either. They just, when it's time for them to find me or I happened into their sphere, it just happens with me automatically too. Yeah.
Have you ever been into like a house or a location and then you would feel exactly what the person who passed there felt? Like, say for example, they had a heart attack and you walk in and like your chest hurts, or somebody was hung there and like your neck hurts. Have you ever had that?
Years ago, we were driving on an old road in like rural Nova Scotia, and there was a big building up on the hill with a huge tree in front of it, and my head whipped around and I was like, I just saw someone hanging from that tree, and I looked back and there's no one hanging from that tree, but I saw it, and he started laughing and explained to me that was the old original courthouse for that area and that people were hung on that tree.
Oh my God, you got sixth sense.
Even when you doubt yourself, when somebody tells you, like, I mean, how do you refute that? I had never been to that particular corner of the world before, so I would have no way of knowing that. And I don't even feel the need to justify it to other people or to prove to them that because this is just, it's my life, and I know what's going on and what's not. I did, a very, very close friend of mine and her boyfriend at the time, she let me know that he had been a paranormal investigator for a while. And he would love to do one and take me along. And I said, I'm game. I'll go. We ended up going to, this is so bizarre. He's my friend and my hairdresser, but his brother used to date my mother. So we're kind of closer than that. So he welcomed me into his house. He was like, Michelle, come, bring Sean, bring whoever you want, come, because the stuff has been happening in this house for so long. So he's got a very large home in the south end of Halifax, which is very old. And it used to belong to the Archdiocese of Halifax. They have the Atlantic School of Theology is what it's called. And it's basically where they go to learn to be a priest in Nova Scotia. So the house he owns used to be where the priests lived, and they had some servants in the house as well that took care of their business. They had a houseman, they had a maintenance man, and they had a maid or whatever. The maintenance man and the maid had been married. I didn't know anything about this before we went. And Chris said, I just want you to walk through the house. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I just want you to walk through the house and tell me what you feel. And I said, I'm not happy. I feel like I'm going to cry all the time that I'm in here. I'm not happy at all. And then I was in his kitchen, and I'm standing in front of a wall with a spice rack. I said, I don't know why I can't walk away from this spot on the, holy cow, I got goosebumps everywhere. I said, I don't know why I can't walk away from this. And he started laughing like crazy. And I'm like, I'm not sure what's so funny, but He said, Michelle, that wall was not there. That was a dumbwaiter that went all the way down to the basement, all the way up to the top floor. And I said, and who's the big guy at the top of the stairs? And he said, well, that would be John. So far and away, they brought in another a guy who actually was a psychic. Mm-hmm. And he said all of the exact same things that I told Chris I was feeling when I was walking through. There was one room that I wouldn't even walk in. And he touches me on the arm. He goes, you know what? I said, no. He said, that was John's room. Oh, okay. Well, he's not a nice guy, and I don't. As it turns out, the story of the home, what he has learned from people and research over the years, was that the maid and the maintenance guy were a married couple. This John character, who was the house man, attacked her and impregnated her. And when she told him that she was pregnant and she was going to tell her husband what he did, he threw her down the shaft of the dumbwaiter. No. She broke her neck in the shaft. And then he took her, and there was an indoor well downstairs that he didn't find until he was renovating, because he used to keep university students in the. He had not. Well, I think he said he had 9 students living there at one time, but many of them would tell them that they were feeling and seeing things happening in the house. But anyway, he thinks that because they were entrenched in the Catholic Church, and even if she threw herself down there because of her predicament. Mm-hmm. Suicide's a sin, murder's a sin. Right. They think this John guy put her body in the well in the basement and then covered it all up, because nobody used the well and nobody knew the well was there. There was concrete over it and everything. If Chris hadn't been renovating the house, he never would have found it and never would have found all of this history. But I was standing in front of that wall where the dumbwaiter shaft was, where she plummeted to her death, and behind that wall.
Did once he renovated and found that well, did more stuff start happening?
Oh yes. Wow. Yeah, once that was open, his girlfriend left. Like, she couldn't stay in the house anymore. And it's huge, gorgeous home, but she couldn't. She's like, I can't get a night's sleep here. They won't leave me alone. So yeah, she had to go.
That hurts me. That hurts my heart.
Yeah, me too.
Golly.
Me too.
That is sad. Have they approached you in dreams or nightmares? Since sounds like they respect your boundaries of not messing with you physically.
Now they don't. But as a kid, I chronic night terrors all the time. And I was always taking my friends or people close to me and tucking them away, and then fighting this thing that I couldn't hurt. As soon as I would do damage, they would be perfectly fine again and coming at me again. I would wake up exhausted, sometimes standing on the corner of my bed screaming, and had no idea, because I was sound asleep. I had a lot of night terrors as a kid.
I was going to ask you this, Michelle. Do you know what ley lines are?
Ley lines?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Ley lines are these imaginary lines that connect historical landmarks like the pyramids, Stonehenge. Oh. There's a ley line that goes straight through Nova Scotia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, there's a ley line that goes straight through Nova Scotia. It goes through New Ross at Castle Site. Mm-hmm. So I just, because like that is one of the theory, like the theory in paranormal is that is one of the supposedly like supercharged areas. Yeah. So
guess where the hanging
I just want you to know. I just want you to know that. So,
Jesus, man.
Guess where the hanging tree was?
Where?
New Ross, Nova Scotia.
Oh no!
What the hell?
Whenever we get off,
That's funny.
I'm going to send you this map. So I'm going to send it to
I
you.
would
So
love that.
What made you think of
I would
that?
love that.
because like I know I talked to you I talked to you on the phone before we actually decided to do this talk.
Yeah.
And I talked to Sean, and you guys are close to that Oak Island, right?
Yeah, it's about an hour away, but yes, same shore.
There's lots of energy in that area too.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just think about it. So, well, Nova Scotia is pretty old, and they've had all kind of settlers go through there, right? They have had Vikings and everybody else just run through there. So it's got a lot of history, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thought about ley lines, and I just looked it up while she was telling me this story about the dumbwaiter, and I go, oh no, there's ley lines going through.
So that's probably feeding her too.
Yeah. So
That's fun.
that's a lot. So I don't know, man. But I love these stories, Michelle. These are such good stories.
It would be very interesting for me to point out in the South End where Chris's house is.
Yeah.
Because it's at the it's on that same shoreline that comes up from White Point, Oak Island, all of that are all on the South Shore, and they come up through Halifax and cut off the end, and the South End is out in that waterway, the same shoreline. So
Right.
I'll be interested to see where that line goes, and yeah.
I'm going to ask you this because I don't know. Is there any tales of like Bigfoot over there?
No. I don't think there's ever been any reports of ghost ships and tons of paranormal and ghost stories from here. Rich history of people dying here, but we don't have. It's not a huge province, and the Appalachians are minimal mountains compared to what you would get down in the States or on the other coast of Canada. We don't have mountainous ranges like, we're lucky to have a ski hill. So, but not a lot of really big open space that nobody ever frequents. We're pretty much shore to shore, populated everywhere. And I've never heard of anything.
Okay. I was just wondering. Just wondering because we've had stories about Bigfoots being attracted to EMF like electrical right-of-ways, gas right-of-ways, and the theory on them is that they give off infrasound, and that's high in EMF, and that's the theory that ghosts whenever they manifest they emit EMF. So. So we, for some reason, Bigfoots are somewhat tied into some paranormal fields, and it's just the more I interviewed people, the more I talked to people, you get these stories of Bigfoots crossing an area or a Bigfoot. Because I always tell people, I said, so if Bigfoot's a real animal, what's it could have a ghost too. It could die and have a ghost, and so people can probably see a Bigfoot ghost, and they just don't know it. So. But anyway, that's just us. We always think outside the box all the time. But
I've seen a few of those machines now. They're pretty incredible. The one funny thing that did happen was when we were sitting around the table afterwards, debriefing about how we felt walking through the house. My phone was fully charged when we walked in, and as soon as we started talking, my phone died. It went completely dead. Yeah. All the battery drained. And it was a brand new iPhone. Brand new.
Do you get also whenever, like, say, for example, you walked into this house, you may not have experienced it, but I just wanted to ask, do you also get the sense of like a smell, like a cigar or an old perfume, or you get like your hair stands up, or you just smell stuff?
Yep.
That's.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I can't identify what the smell is, but I'll say, can't you smell that? And the people around me can't smell at all and I'm not a hypersensitive person as far as smell goes, or I'm just average bear. probably nose blind in my own house, but yeah, it's interesting.
Do you think because you sing and the energy that you have, you think that's like it's like an extra level on that you can sense all this stuff as well?
I've always had the feeling, because I'm almost always singing to myself. Mm-hmm. I've always had the impression that I leave a calming presence around me, that people are happy to just mill in and they don't strike out at me. I'm not an aggressive person either. Mm-hmm. So, I don't have problems with them per se. They don't decide they don't like me and come at me in a negative way or whatever. They're usually trying to get attention if it's not a good feeling thing. Mm-hmm. But if they don't feel good, I don't deal with them. So, But if they feel like a calm presence who really just hasn't found their way, then I'll take the time and have a conversation. But I'll center myself first and make sure I'm in a good place, heart and mind. Make sure that I protect myself, and then I'll say, okay, we need to talk. And I'll explain to them that they're not alive anymore.
Right.
And whatever they think they're doing, they're not actually achieving. And it's time for you to go, because there's nothing for you here.
Yeah. I mean, I sense that from you. You just have a very calm, very good demeanor, because I can just tell you right now that this year, I think we've interviewed more paranormal people than we have Bigfoot people. And I was thinking after I talked to Sean, because he was telling me about you, and I go, man, we've interviewed a lot of paranormal people. Maybe I should interview her. And I actually thought that. And then something inside me told me, no, you need to talk to her, reach out to her. And I think at that time, my mom got really, really sick. And, so we were like in, DEFCON 1, and we were trying to make sure my mom was okay. And I was driving over to go see my mom and make sure she was taking her pills, and asking my sister what she needed and stuff like that. And so, and then after she got better, the little voice inside of me goes, Robert, reach out to Michelle Ryder. And so I did. I texted you. I said, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but I go, because we talked a while back, and I wanted to interview you and you go, yes, right away. You said yes right away. And I was super excited. I go, but something, I don't know what it was, Michelle, but something inside me was telling me, you need to reach out to her and talk to her, because I just feel that you're such a good person. And
it was her.
It was her.
She was connecting to you and be like, I want to talk.
So, but we're almost at an hour here.
I had
go ahead.
One question.
Sure.
So you say your sister is always with you, and I know you said she passed before she was born.
Yeah.
Did she have a name?
They were going to call her Frances. They never actually put a name on her stone. So I would have had an older sister that they also tried to call Frances. And then my sister who is living was born, and they thought of calling her France. I don't know why this Frances was so important, but anyway, they ended up calling her Colleen instead. And then when we were expected, the intention was to call me Michelle and her Frances, but she never did thrive. Apparently she took one breath, but that was that.
Yeah.
So when you acknowledge her, you say Frances?
No, no. It's not even a name kind of conversation. You
feel her, right?
I don't even have to use my mouth. I just, and actually, like I said, my grandmother and I were very, very close. She was my best friend, and she raised me most of my life. And, I freely have conversations with her. I miss her terribly.
Yeah.
Her physical presence here, but I still feel very connected to her. I feel like I can talk to her. I do talk to her about things when they're not going well in life. And, I feel that she's still got a very strong presence too. So maybe she tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Go talk to Michelle and help her sort this stuff out."
Probably.
She's like that. You'd love her.
Yeah. I cannot explain it what it was. It was just something.
Yeah, this sounded like a mother presence or a grandmother presence saying you need to.
Because I'll say this, and I've said this before. I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast, but I was never close to any of my grandparents at all, and they were just. I don't hate them. I don't hate them. I just don't think I was in their life enough for them to care for me. Yeah. So I don't really generally have a grandparent. I didn't have any grandparents that were loving and caring. Right. So I will say this: if that's your grandmother, I accepted it. So
thank you.
I don't know. I was just pretty. I can't explain it because I know we've interviewed like hundreds of people, and I've never felt like, oh, you know what? Because like there's plenty of people like Michelle that ghost us. That say, hey, we want to do the podcast, and I go okay, and I give them a date, and we call them up, and they don't answer, or they don't respond, and I go okay, that's fine. I don't take it personal. Mm-hmm. It's just business. So.
I don't understand what I don't know. Some people are gatekeepers, I guess. I tried to talk to the sister that's living a couple of times, and she and I are very, very different people anyway, but she would have said to me, shut your mouth and don't say this stupidity around people. They're all going to think you're crazy. But I'm 54 years old. I know I'm not crazy. I have a successful career. I have a successful music career. I've got wonderful friends and good people around me. I don't care what other people think.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to talk about my life, and this has been my experience on this trip around the sun. So
yeah.
I think I'm crazy, but do it over there. I don't care what you think.
Yeah. I think the same way. Cause like once I coded and came back, and I go, you know what? I just care about life. I don't care about it. A lot of stuff. I just care about, I got a second chance. So I'm just going to enjoy it and live life the best I can. So that's the way I see it.
My friend, that's all we can do.
So, Miss Ryder, how do our listeners find your music?
Oh, I'm on all of the streaming platforms.
Okay.
Building a website. I'm just adding. I mean, it's the site is live, but it's not complete yet. So I'm adding the songs and the videos to that now. But certainly YouTube, Barstools and Band Talk, Facebook, Instagram, all of those. Okay. Michelle Ryder Music. I'm everywhere.
Whenever I post this, I'm going to reach out to you, and whatever links you want me to add on to this, I will do it for you. We would love to have you back on.
Yes.
Anytime.
So tell Sean I said hello.
I will. Thank you.
Tell him I said hello, and we were just so happy to have you on. I think I'm smiling ear to ear right now, so I'm pretty happy. So it was great talking to you. Thank you for coming on, and you have a good night. Okay.
Thank you so much. Good night, guys. See you.